To abandon ship. What does it mean to abandon ship? Why would one abandon ship? Ladies and gentlemen, people all over the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, beautiful people around the beautiful world. You already know what time it is. It is that mysterious, that unknown, that half man, half tortoise, that African tortoise, that immaculate tortoise. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning. Hello, everybody. I've just woken up. Why not do a vlog? It's the best. It's the first thing I do in the morning is a vlog. But I need to ask you a very important question. Beloved brother, beloved sister, good morning again. Nice to meet you. Stay with me. Stay with us for a little bit longer. But I need to ask you an important question. The person that's watching this video, can you subscribe to the channel? Can you subscribe to the channel? I need your support. I need your beloved support to grow this channel. With that said and done, what does it mean to abandon the ship? What does it mean to why abandon the ship? To abandon the ship. What does it mean to abandon the ship? To forsake something, to stop the pursuit of something, pretty much. It's very simple. What does it mean to abandon the ship? To forsake the ship, to get off the ship, to physically move yourself off the ship. That's what it means to abandon the ship. Why abandon the ship in the first place, though? Why would you abandon the ship in the first place, though? There are many reasons why somebody would abandon the ship. The first one for me would be if the ship is going nowhere. Why stay on the ship if it's going nowhere? Come off the ship, right? Get off the ship. Forsake the ship. The second one would be if the ship is in an accident. The ship is in an emergency. If God forbid you strike an iceberg and the ship begins to sink, that's when it's time for you to abandon that ship, right? It's time for you to abandon the ship. Next one would be there's three of these. I thought about three of these. The first one would be if the ship's going nowhere. The next one would be if the ship is in an emergency. Then the next one is if there's a better ship. If you can find a better ship than the one you are on currently, then it's time for you to abandon the ship. If there's something better, it's time for you to move on. It's time for you to forsake that odd thing, whatever it is, and move on. So those are the three. I'll give you an example, guys, of abandoning a ship. Actually, I'll give you a story. A young man is a young man. He has his entire life ahead of him. As a matter of fact, he's just beginning his career. But he just got married. He has a good social circle. He's a very outgoing person. He's friendly. He has so much going for him. He's very social. Yeah, he spends a lot of time with his friends and his young wife, and with his family as well. But now he's in a career. He's just beginning his career. He's trying to climb up the corporate ladder, as they like to say, and slowly, year by year, he begins to climb up the corporate ladder. And before he knows it, he reaches that position where he's now in a position of power. He's making good decisions. But, there's always a but to these stories. Through all that, he has lost himself. He's lost his openness. First and foremost, he was very open with everybody. He was very social. He was outgoing, but because of work commitments, unfortunately, he's no longer outgoing. Secondly, he's young. He's still a young man. He's just been married. But now his relationship with his wife is beginning to be affected by his work. But this is the most important thing. What he earns at work is enough to sustain him and his family for generations. Not just him, but his children and their children as well. What does he do in that situation? Does he abandon the ship, or does he stay on that ship? It's a little bit of food for thought right there. But yeah, that's the whole concept of abandoning the ship. Excuse me, my pronunciations are a bit bad for this word, but that's the whole concept of abandoning the ship. When is it the right time to abandon the ship, or when is the right time to stay on the ship? Is the ship going anywhere? Is there any progress? Is the ship in an emergency, or is there a better ship? What do you do in that scenario? For me, I'll be lying to you if I said to you I've abandoned some ships. Sorry. The only reason that I would abandon some ships is if they're not going anywhere, or they are in an emergency, or of course there is a better ship. And to be honest, I have abandoned a ship for the past 33 years of my life. I've been on this ship, this great giant ship that seemed to have been going nowhere. So I had to get off that ship and find another ship. And thankfully, that ship has led me to fulfillment, to salvation, to spirituality. Of course, I'm talking about God's ship. Now I am on God's ship, heading towards the horizon, towards the sunset, towards just majesticness, towards the promised land, of course. And I feel much more happy. I feel as if I'm on a good destination, in other words. So that's the time I've had to abandon ship. And of course, God Himself, He's given us free will to make decisions for ourselves. Are you going to stay on a ship that leads you to nowhere, or are you going to get off that ship if it's in an emergency, or there's a better ship, or the ship or that ship itself is not going anywhere? Are you going to stay on that ship? And if you ever find yourself on a ship that seems to be going nowhere, of course, and you feel as if there's no other option, the first thing you can do, beloved brother, beloved sister, is prayer. Ask for guidance. Look to the bright and shining morning star that points the way through the darkness of night. Like the Titanic. The Titanic was a ship that sank when was that? In the 19th century, in the 1800s, the Titanic sank. And one of the reasons was because the lack of observation. They couldn't really see where they were going, and by the time they realized, it was too late. Now that led to, unfortunately, many people perishing in that event. If they had did some preparation and understood where they were going, they could have avoided that situation altogether. But yes, it's the same thing with you. If you do some observation, if you prepare yourself for where you are going, you can avoid sinking like the Titanic, of course, which was a tragic event, of course. And again, in that situation, of course, you got to abandon that ship. It's in an emergency. It's in a bad emergency. But again, there was no other ships for you to get off. So if you end up in a ship that is going nowhere and you are far from land, you don't want to be in that situation. You do not want to find yourself in a Titanic situation where you are far from any sort of rescue vessel or far from land. And if there's an emergency, the ship begins to sink, and there's no way for you to get off. So you don't want to be in that situation, of course. So you have to do some the diligence and some research and know where you are going. Make sure the ship that you are on is strong and safe, and it knows where it's going, and the captain knows where they're going with that ship. Of course, you are the captain of your ship. I am the captain of my ship, and I must use my eyes. If I'm lost, of course, I can always ask God for guidance, and of course He'll give you the guidance. Abandon any ship that leads you towards an iceberg, is what I'm trying to say. You need to abandon any ship that leads you towards an iceberg. And if you still feel lost, ask God for guidance. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people all over the world, if you are going through difficult times, if you are on a ship that is going nowhere, if you have hit rock bottom, let's say if you are lost, if you feel as if you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and nobody seems to listen to you, it just seems to get bad. The first thing you can do, beloved brother, beloved sister, is prayer. Prayer is very important. Prayer heals you. That's the first thing. Prayer absolutely heals any type of wound. It's not instantaneous. Egypt was not built in a day. You have to keep going back at it. But prayer heals you. Prayer guides you. Prayer allows you to release. Prayer connects you to nature. And most important of all, prayer connects you to God, of course. And then you can let it be known what your strengths and weaknesses, your fears, your aspirations are to God. With that said and done, beloved one, Have an amazing day. Peace out. God bless.